where the judges, of course, stated that it is important at this moment for Israel to desist from killing, injuring, destroying life and preventing births in relation to the Palestinians, as these acts clearly fall within the scope of the Genocide Convention. And also at this moment, we're being joined by Ms. Margarita Capaci, who's a journalist who's joining us from The Hague. Ms. Capaci, this of course is the interim order that we were waiting for, and there we've heard from the judge of the ICJ where she said that the International Court of Justice has jurisdiction to listen to this case of genocide that's been brought against Israel, and it's also gone on to list out certain interim measures by which she said that Israel must desist from killing, injuring, destroying life and preventing births in relation to the Palestinians. Ms. Margarita Capaci, if you can hear me, my question to you was about the order, the interim order that's just been read out by the judge at the International Court of Justice.
Could you repeat your question? It's a windy day today and there is a big crowd that gathered outside of the Peace Palace in The Hague.
Yes, my question to you was, South Africa had of course brought this case of genocide against Israel, and now the International Court of Justice has not only admitted the case, but has also announced some interim measures that Israel must resort to.
Yeah, indeed. The court has in fact said that it is aware of the violence and the level of death in Gaza, and has announced with quite a big majority the voting measures to prevent those deaths. And there is a lot of excitement outside of the ICJ here in The Hague, as you might hear. There was a big crowd that gathered, and there was a screen, and people just waited outside in cold temperature to hear the whole ruling.
Right. Absolutely. Ms. Capaci, do continue to stay on with us. Meanwhile, I'm told that we are being joined by my colleague Calden Ongmu, who's joining us from South Africa. Calden, this of course will be seen as a clear victory for the South African side who brought in this case of genocide against Israel. And the judge there, who read out this interim ruling, has said that this is a case that the ICJ has jurisdiction over, has also listed out a number of provisional measures asking Israel to take extreme care in its military offensive and to desist from the killing, injuring and the destroying of life and preventing of births in relation with the Palestinians.
Well, Salah, what I can tell you from South Africa here, sitting here in Johannesburg, is most of the South Africans are sitting in front of their telly, mobile phones, getting into their social media to log on into the live proceedings from Hague. But as much as, like you said, the judge president read out some of the measures that Israel must follow, and that is what South Africa was seeking, the immediate provisional measures from the court. However, there is the big measure missing here is that South Africa has requested is an immediate end to hostilities in and around Gaza. And there was no, so far what we've heard is there was no order of immediate ceasefire, which was the number one priority or number one request from South Africa to the ICJ. However, some of the provisional measures ordered were for Israel was to refrain from acts under the Genocide Convention with genocidal intent, prevent and punish incitement, allow humanitarian assistance and preserve evidence and submit report to the court in 1 month. But the big missing still is there was no ceasefire announced. From the reports that we've been getting from Gaza is more than 25,000 lives have been lost. The infrastructure has been damaged. There is no access to food, water, electricity, internet, nothing. Some of the South Africans, I must say, sitting here are actually very disappointed that there was no immediate ceasefire, order of immediate ceasefire that was announced. But we will listen up to further what the judge president still has to rule.
Absolutely, indeed, Calden. Do continue to stay on with us. Let's in fact go back to our reporter from The Hague, Margherita Capaci. Now, Margherita, you are present at the court where the proceedings, we understand, have just concluded, where this interim order has just been read out by the chief judge there. A lot of people were, of course, waiting to hear whether there would be an interim order calling for a ceasefire in terms of how the Israelis must take this offensive forward. Instead, what we have heard from the judge is that Israel must ensure that in its offensive, it does not resort to the killing of the Palestinian people in groups, and also a number of other measures, including to allow international aid to in fact come into the Gaza Strip. What more are you picking up at your end there?
Yeah, indeed. The judge said that Israel should stop to prevent the killing and serious body and mental harm and the destruction of infrastructures, and also quite importantly, they should prevent the destruction of evidence that can be used later in a case. And one other thing that is important maybe to mention is the judge said that Israel is bound by international law to follow these measures and has to do so over the next month.
Right. Absolutely, indeed. Thank you very much indeed, Margherita Capaci, for joining us from The Hague and getting us all those details. And thanks also to my colleague Calden Ongmu, who joined us from South Africa and getting us all those updates. So this is, of course, the big story at the moment, where the International Court of Justice, which, remember, has been hearing the arguments from both sides, from the State of Israel, which was, of course, defending itself against this charge of genocide that has been brought against it by South Africa, a very detailed and a comprehensive charge with all the evidence that has now been submitted. So an interim order has, of course, been read out by the judge, where there is no express order in terms of an immediate ceasefire or cessation of hostilities in the Gaza Strip. But the judge was categorical in stating that Israel must desist from acts that would be seen as and that come under the purview of genocide under international law. That, of course, is the latest in terms of what has happened at The Hague. Today we'll slip into a short break. More updates will, of course, continue on WION. Stay tuned.
India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
As India celebrates its Republic Day, we tell you how Indian patriotic films have changed with time. Find out all about Hrithik Roshan and Deepika Padukone's star of Fighter.
You're watching me on.
You are watching me on
WION.
And meet Indian actors Shilpa Shetty and Vivek Oberoi as they talk about Indian police force. All this and more with me, Alison Lagrange, on WION E-Club at these times.
In this week's Wings, explore Ayodhya's transformation.